So after a week-long break, we have finally been provided yet another incredible chapter of My Hero Academia. The suspense behind this one is real, and it has only made it that much clearer that things from here will be absolutely insane. In the last one, we opened up to the wrongful persecution of a fearful civilian who would then be saved by Deku. At this point, the state of the world wasn't all too different from the time of Lariat. Ultimately, Deku absolutely needs to be able to use the full extent of One For All's power if he is to take down Shigaraki and All For One. From here, we would then flash back to prior events as the founder of One For All would have a conversation with the second and third wielders. As finally, these two characters would then properly be revealed to us, and as it turns out, they were around at the height of All For One's infamy, the second being the leader of a resistance against him. Furthermore, we would receive the name of the founder. It was Yoichi. Now, the second was reluctant to put his faith in such a bright-eyed and seemingly delusional kid such as Deku, and considering all that he and his allies went through to try and stop All For One, I can't blame him. However, the founder would in turn question the second's decision to save him that day from his imprisonment, as that defining moment was the true beginning of One For All. The second would again question the founder's belief in Deku, but then he too would once again join the fight. From there, he would tell Deku that from here on out things will be progressing far more quickly, which by the looks of this latest chapter may very well have been a message to us as the audience as well. To begin this chapter, we would have a number of villains fleeing, as one in particular was shooting off several highly lethal nail gun rounds. This location looks to be an abandoned grocery store, with Endeavor being the intended target of this shooting. Now, as perceived by Endeavor, this nail gun was extremely modified by Detnerat. Support items in the past had not been augmented for lethal means, which is to say that certain inhibitors have been completely removed as to further that survival of the fittest, kill or be killed state of the world that they had longed for. But Endeavor, if nothing else, is a skilled combatant, as he would swiftly jump from cover to immediately shift onto the attack, as he would send searing flames towards the villain, now incapacitating him. However, the villain would remark that everything is Endeavor's fault, of course referring to the current state of society, as Endeavor himself would respond that that is exactly why he is here, and here the grit of Endeavor is made rather apparent. Horikoshi's art has been especially great as of late, and as I've expressed in the past, when it comes to expression and conveying emotion, Horikoshi is truly incredible. From here, Endeavor would regroup with Best Jeanist and Hawks. They would speak of someone known as Jailbreaker, as the goons they had just taken down were conspirators of his. But just then, a metal rod would be flung towards Endeavor. An angry mob of people would then condemn him, blaming him for the entire situation and the arrival of Jailbreaker. Now, this is pretty interesting. I like the idea of new villains entering the fray and providing certain intrigue. They continue to denote Jailbreaker to be a he, so they seem to be someone we have yet to encounter. But just as Hawks would urge Endeavor to leave, a member of the crowd would remark that according to the news, Shigaraki is after someone other than the top 3 heroes. That again, Endeavor continues to keep secrets from them. And with that, they're not wrong. The heroes have been forthright about everything except for Deku. That is the one topic that they decided to lie about with their press conference. The people continued to berate and throw things at him, as they would additionally question if he had seen the families of Dabi's burn victims on television. Best Jeanist would deflect the debris to the best of his abilities with his threads, but yeah, the people are pissed and Endeavor isn't catching any breaks. Those of you who felt Endeavor needed to suffer for his past atrocities, are you happy to see this? Now furthermore, although Hawks is with these two, he is yet to fully regrow his wings. But now, in Best Jeanist's car, Hawks would finish up a call with Edgeshot, who was looking into the Liberation Front, before the three would begin a bit of a conversation. This would begin with the subject of their current proximity to Deku. In fear of Deku coming under fire by way of the media as well, they would opt to continue keeping their distance so as to not burden the kid any more than he already is. But admittedly, they were in a sense keeping him out as bait for the League. But even still, the League continues to be hidden pretty well. The subject of Jailbreaker would then briefly come up again, as there seemed to be a degree of structure or a pecking order when it came to the former inmates of Tartarus. They were presumed to be laying in wait for their opportunity to capture Deku. Endeavor would then reiterate that the utmost priority of All For One is the acquisition of Shigaraki's body. Now, this conversation would touch upon things that we know very well, particularly that the goal to follow that one would be the collection of One For All. However, Hawks would then express his confusion towards this. It was made clear to him that Shigaraki's body was incomplete. And sure, a strong body may be necessary, but why does All For One need Shigaraki's hatred to be so strong? All For One himself has been in pursuit of the power for hundreds of years, so for him to have a successor, that hatred of Shigaraki's must be pretty special. Now, if you've been keeping up with the channel for some time now, you would know that we questioned this very thing 3 months ago. And from it, we uncovered some groundbreaking revelations that make the master plan of All For One expressly clear. And so if you have yet to watch that theory, I really think that you should change that, because it may very well answer these questions quite thoroughly. But past that, at the moment, the villains were being very evasive, and so they would consider capitalizing on that fact, that perhaps they should dedicate all their manpower to investigation, even if they had to reduce the number of people focused on public safety. A pretty tough call, but if it means ending the conflict sooner, I suppose it's not the worst thing ever. But just then, a sudden beep would get the attention of Best Jeanist. From there, we would shift to the vehicle of All Might. Here, All Might would reflect on the concern of his late sidekick, Sir Night-Eye, who would often urge him to get some proper rest. A conversation he was now able to truly understand, as it was now the case with him and Deku, as Deku was always in the streets, neglecting his sleep. But just then, All Might too would receive an alarming beep. Deku's GPS signal had suddenly ceased, and just a moment later, something would zip to the side of All Might's car. It was a bomb, one that would blow up just to the side of him. We would then be with Deku as his phone was suddenly blasted out of his hand as it was in the process of being raised to his face. As it was now lodged into the side of a building, a communicator could be heard from it that would call for him. They intend to capture Deku here and now. The villain Deku was chasing after was not a coincidence. It was a trap that relates to Jailbreaker. As then we would see her yet again, the female villain who was instrumental to the freeing of the Tartarus inmates. Her elbow, now malformed and elongated into a high-caliber sniper rifle, as she would urge him to follow along or she will have to blow off some limbs. She was an assassin sent by All For One. And to her side was none other than Chisaki Kai, the once terrifying villain known as Overhaul. And that was the chapter, and what a chapter at that. What a return, what a cliffhanger. First of all, that sniper elbow thing is insane and just goes to show that the quirks of the villains are usually way cooler than that of the heroes. Goodness gracious, does Horikoshi know how to make a good female character design. Maybe that doesn't sound all too astonishing, but listen, that is something even his most prolific of predecessors admittedly struggled with, so kudos to him. Overhaul re-entering the fray in this way is bound to be interesting. Deku wants to try and talk to villains these days, so I'm sure that this will make for a pretty good conversation if nothing else. Chisaki doesn't look to be taking much of an active role in this situation, and without his arms, he's pretty much quirkless, so why he is being brought along here is a question I have indeed. But past that, it is pretty terrifying that Deku's danger sense did not pick up on her presence sooner. Perhaps this is an indicator of his inexperience, but then again she seems to be keeping her distance from him as implied by the big sniper rifle and communication rounds. If I were to assume her quirk with this now being presented, I would say that it's sort of like a bioweapon situation. Her body being a sort of omni-tool, somewhat similar to Momo's quirk to an extent, but rather than producing items, she is the item. What sort of reminds me of Prototype, a game from 2009 that I thought was the coolest thing ever as a kid. But finally, the All Might situation. There was no need for that, way out of pocket. What do you gain from that? All Might is damn helpless at this point, but now just had his car bombed. Now I'd imagine that that car is pretty well reinforced, but damn, it is just really not safe on the block. All Might is going to get hurt out here. But listen man, My Hero Academia is just way too good right now, so if you are enjoying how things are going, be sure to subscribe to Plot Armor, as we will be covering all of that and more for you guys, as we always do. And at that, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at PlotArmorYT, because the moment any meaningful information drops on any of this stuff, that is the best place to be, because when it comes to bringing you some of the best My Hero Academia content on the platform, Plot Armor has you covered. As always, I am Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.